Well, here we go again. It is Friday, May. I almost said April. It is Friday, May the 3rd. And believe you me, we are already, this is what, the
You're not on. You're not live. You're not live.
live? It's saying I'm live. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Shall I end stream then? Okay. Here I am. I asked a question because we've been having some technical difficulties, and it seems that I am with you. Good evening, loyal opposition. Great. Okay, good. I know I'm on. Let me see how to work this fancy stuff they gave me here. Okay, good. So I'm with you guys today. It's a pleasure to be with you. This is Friday, May the 3rd. It's an unexpected pleasure of mine to be with you tonight. I can tell you we're going to have another exciting show, another very interesting and a very informative show. So let me start out by greeting all of you and saying good evening to you, to the loyal opposition, all of you, Marie Watson and Tyrone Blackman, Beverly Prescott, of course, my uh, cohort, so to speak, Marcia, that keeps me on my P's and Q's when it comes to the national anthem. Thank you, Marcia. Really appreciate you keeping me on my toes with that. Lemuel Tull, Sandra Franklin, Tyrone Blackman. Happy Friday to all of you as well. Callie Bede and Michael Herwood. I saw somebody was on since 6 o'clock. I am just absolutely overwhelmed with the tenacity of all of you as you engage, being so committed to this show. And I am thankful to all of you, Diana Husband, Sandra Franklin, Jeanetha Calendar. Good evening to you. It's good to see you too, all from St. Philip West. Wonderful, wonderful. Great to have you with us tonight. St. Ches, Michael Watts, good evening to you as well. Janelle Herwood, boy, I tell you, I'm massacring some of your names, and I hope you forgive me. Nat Grant and DG, good night to you as well. Victorious Queen, great to have you with us again this evening. Flojo Maloney, good night to you as well. Emerson Babb and Tammy Griffith from St. Philip South. So great to have you. I'm in St. George. I think I'm in St. George North, but so far everything is going well over here. Great to have all of you joining us tonight. We have a great show lined up. We have some very special guests that are going to be on with us tonight. Of course, you are going to see Marcia Weeks. Okay, you're going to see her because it wouldn't be a Marcia Weeks show without Marcia. We really want to have her on and know that she is here with us. We have had some little technical difficulties, so I think we're getting that ironed out to some degree. But it's great to be back with you all again today. Of course, our focus is going to be the cybercrime bill. We are going after that. I do have an oral presentation to make to the committee on Monday evening, and I'm looking forward to that in terms of raising concerns as a citizen, as a minister of religion, as a father, as a grandfather. I was given a lot of thought to this cybercrime bill, and it suddenly dawned on me that my children and my grandchildren could be at risk of being criminalized because, as you know, young people are just connected to these technological platforms, social media, and the communications that they have. The exchange of information and pictures and all of that. It is very, very concerning when we begin to take a look at matters to do with freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. It is a reality that some of our freedoms are going to be affected by this, what I would have to call, don't let me say that by the draconian bill. The bill has some very positive aspects about it, but the several negative areas are so pungent that they almost obliterate all the positives that you could have. And so we really want to take a look at some of the details of this bill tonight and encourage you. I think the deadline has passed for submissions in terms of what you want to send in as your as your submissions, but in terms of our oral things as well. So we want to look at we want to look at yes, we want to look at this bill tonight, and we want to continue to dissect it bit by bit. Um, uh, no, Easy D, I have not provided a copy of my oral speech. I will not be providing a copy of my oral speech prior to my oral speech. I haven't been asked to do that. However, if when I conclude the speech they wish a copy of this speech, they can feel free to have it. Thank you so very much, Patrick Green, for your greeting. God bless you as well. A real pleasure to have you with us as well tonight. I'm just receiving emails on an ongoing basis. And so good night to you as well. The Shalon. I don't know. It's that's like Shiloh Temple. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to behave myself because I don't want any ninjas coming in on me tonight, right, D? Okay, great. Hasbra, good night to you as well. Janelle Herwood and Captain, great to see you. I know all the talk, but I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something though. We got to watch the talk, and we got to watch a lot of the things that are going on. I raised a concern on this platform regarding these loans that we're continuously taking. Almost every blessed day, we are being told of another loan. And there's no problem with loans. The problem is not with loans. The problem is with paying them back. And the problem is with the terms and conditions of the loans. If you go to buy a car, the issue for the bank is not what the car costs, or the fact that you want a loan for X amount of money. If it's $100,000, $200,000 car, whatever, the bank doesn't have a problem with that. What they are going to look at is your ability to pay that loan. And you can't be borrowing money from other institutions to pay off debt at other institutions, which is precisely what we are doing. What is the country generating? The government has to tell the people of Barbados what is the revenue. What are the revenues this country is generating? You remember that little quote I made? I gave you some time ago that a minister, one of my colleagues, gave me. When you're, let me see if I get it right. When your outgo exceeds your income, then your upkeep becomes your downfall. When your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. So we want to know what is the country's income, and don't talk to me about a loan that is going to pay a loan. We need to be making money. We need to be making money from sugar or sea island cotton or yams or potatoes or tourism or manufacturing. Money has to be generated in this country from something to pay our debts. And I recently, I wasn't quite prepared for tonight, but I recently saw an article written with regards to a former member of the International Monetary Fund urging countries not to take any more loans, and urging Barbados, I think it was specifically, not to take any more loans with the International Monetary Fund. Now, I'm concerned about the terms and conditions, because and on Monday when I join you, if it doesn't happen before, I'm going to share a video, if it hasn't been shared before, with you concerning a situation with the Chinese and Antigua, and property in Antigua that technically has been taken over by the Chinese. And I wonder, just the other night in our show, Kmar revealed the Hope Plantation with a big entry banner in Chinese, which none of us speak. We don't speak Chinese, and I wonder if ordinary Barbadians can go onto that property. We need to know what's going on in this country, especially when one considers the fact that the Chinese Communist Party has met with members of the Barbados Labour Party. That is concerning. This is the world's #1 dictatorship on the planet, meeting with a party that's forming our government, and that's just the beginning of things. I'll touch on some other stuff as we go through the evening. But I'm going to ask Dave if he can help me out. I don't know, Dave, if you can do it, but of course, the first thing we want to do is we want to play our national anthem. It's 10 minutes after 7. We're not quite up to 500 yet, which is normally the figure that I'm looking for in terms of the national anthem. And I'm not up there yet, but I'm still going to ask Dave if he could go ahead and play that anthem. And if you're having a challenge with it, Dave, just let me know, and I'll see if I can do it from here. All right. So the national anthem. Amen, amen, amen. Our national anthem. You know, there's some people that get a little bit upset when we talk about the Lord on this show, when we talk about religious matters, but our national anthem has it enshrined in it. The Lord has been the people's guide for past 300 years. With him still on the people's side. And I want to get this message across. With him still on the people's, not the government's, the people's side. We have no doubts or fears. And that is a reality, because the scripture tells us that the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, and all the people that dwell therein. So we are happy to know that the Lord has been our guide for past 300 years, and with him still on the people's side, we have no doubts and fears. Upward and onward we shall go, inspired, exalted, free, and greater will our nation grow in strength and unity. So we welcome you to this Friday night. I'm going to move straight into my guests in just a moment, and it's a pleasure to have again all of you. Anderson Thompson, good night, calling out to the people of St. Joseph, Mr. Lewis and Mr. Gemmont. We need your support in the march. The people of Ballantine, come on and support the march. Mr. Anthony Cherry, you and the group come out and support the march. As a matter of fact, if you can put that banner up, that flyer up, Dave, the march is tomorrow morning. We are marching against the cybercrime bill in its current state, in its current form. The march begins at the Kensington Oval area, just in front of the Kensington Oval, opposite the DeCosta Mall. It begins, I believe, at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And we want to invite all of you, the Democratic Labour Party supporters. You need to be out in this march. Those of you in Ballantyne, you need to be out in this march. Mr. Cherry and all of you, this is going to affect us all, my friend. As a matter of fact, I want to call out the church leaders, the pastors, the apostles, the prophets, the reverends, all of you, to come out and support this march. This march is not about the Marcia Weeks show. This march is about this country. And if you ministers of religion believe that it's not going to affect you, you're sadly mistaken. Note that if a person takes a video of what is happening in your service and airs it on social media, on any social media platform, the reality is that you may find yourself with a fine and imprisonment. So let's get out and let's get out and be involved in this march. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to share with you. And then we need some assistance. Marcy has indicated that the show needs some assistance. We need someone with the following: WordPress developer. Let me repeat that: WordPress developer. And I'm going to try to put it up so you can see it on the screen. Ability to alter images to prepare them for a website. That's JPEG. Updating report pages must be done about 2 to 3 times each week. You must have a love for what we are doing for the island. We work for the greater good, and a knowledge of web building with Elementor. And those are some of the needs that we have. We'll put them up during the night for you to be able to make a note of them. And if you want more information, remember you can WhatsApp 236-7000, and Marcia will be happy to get back in touch with you. All right. So great to have all of you. We're up to 482. Go ahead and share. You know that we need to have you not only share, but especially on YouTube. We need you to like as well. I saw the other night we got up to 500 likes. We need to get up to 1,000 now so that we can indeed have a lot more impact on what is happening in our country. Now I want to welcome Rose. Rose, I hope you're ready to come on in with me. I'm going to bring you in. I see your lovely smiling face. You have to unmute your microphone so that we can chat. I don't know how you do that, but however you do it, you need to unmute it so we can hear you. There, I heard the ha. So I know that you just unmuted it. Good evening. And what a pleasant surprise for you to see me on the show tonight, you know, because you did ask me to do a recording, and I must confess, you know, I have to be honest. I have to be honest. And I had to say, you know, God knows how to save your face. So I wasn't able to get the recording done, but I am live. So I'm here.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
I can share for you what you wanted me to do when you're ready for it. But welcome to the show, Rose. As you know, we're talking about the cybercrime bill. I know I heard some input from you the other night that was absolutely stunning. And I'm looking forward to what you have to share with us again tonight. So the floor is yours, ma'am, and I'll interject from time to time. Of course, that's until Marcia comes, because then she's going to put me in the back room so I don't interrupt.
No, she wouldn't. She wouldn't. And what a delight to be here with you. A
Thank you.
surprise,
Thank
but
you.
a delight, as
Yeah,
always.
thank you so much.
Um, Good evening, everyone. As I usually greet you, loyal sons and daughters, all strict guardians of our faith. And I want also to, with your permission, Pastor Ferdy, to say some hellos and shout out.
Oh,
I
go
want
right
to
ahead.
say a special shout out to a listener, a close friend of mine, a Barbadian, who is in Portugal. And
Oh,
she
wow. Wow.
listens to our show. And when we're finished, it's about 3 a.m. in Portugal. But she
Wow.
listens and she provides feedback and
Uh-huh.
she shares some very interesting information with me that informs what I present or any other work that I do in relation to the show. I
Yes,
want to
yes.
say a special shout out to you. And after the show, she texts me engaging a long text message. So, you know, I get to bed to about 3 a.m. our time. But that shows
Uh,
how far this program has touched and how it has engaged
yes.
the participation, interaction, interest of those in the diaspora. I want also to say hello to that gentleman who does night security. On Monday, I think it was on or Tuesday, he saw our car parked by a residence. Recognizing the license, he came to the house and he engaged my husband and I with only good feedback about the show and how much he has learned. And encourage us to keep doing what we're doing. So we're glad you know who you are to keep you company between 7 and 10 while you
Yes,
are on the
yes.
night watch. I want to say hello also to the pharmacist when I popped into a pharmacy today who knocked on the window and said, "Good to see you. I hear you on the Marcia Beat show." And these things, and the proprietor when we were out last Friday out in a rural area,
Yeah.
and we went to order some drinks from her, and she said, "I know that voice,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you're on the Marcia Beat show, aren't you?" She said, "I listen every night." And I am so glad that we are part of the lives of persons near and far and keeping them updated with what's happening in this country and in our interests. So, good night, everyone. And tonight we are furthering discussion on the Cybercrime Convention. I want to do it in two parts. I am going to devote the first part to this bit of research that I've done. And if there's time, then I would want to look at not the second half devoted to the politicizing of the cybercrime bill. But let's get on to this one. And this is the cybercrime. Thank you, Philip. I've got my hard copy here. And the next slide, please. We are looking at the Cybercrime Convention, the Budapest Convention, the next slide. And this is a review for those of you who may be wondering what is this that is occupying our interest and our concern. And this is just a review. And what is the Cybercrime Convention, the Budapest Convention? And it covers the following: the criminalization of conduct, note that, the criminalization of conduct, and conduct in what area. And please, as we go along, do some parallels with what's happening here at national level. And the convention has identified the areas that can be criminalized, the criminalization of conduct, ranging from illegal access, data and systems, interference to computer interference, computer related fraud, data and systems interference, to computer related fraud and dissemination of child abuse material. This summary is taken from a reputable site called Your Lex, EUR standing for European lex law, and it is the European Union law and association, so it's reputable. They summarize also that the convention covers procedural powers to investigate cybercrime and secure electronic evidence in relation to any crime. I believe that would be any cyber crime that has been committed, and the efficient international cooperation between parties. Just a summary of the of the areas. Let's look at the next slide, please. It continues, and they identify the offenses, defined by the convention: illegal access, illegal interception, data interference, system interference, misuse of devices, computer-related forgery, computer-related fraud, offenses related to child pornography. And if you could carry this slide a little higher for me. And it also look at offenses related to copyright and neighboring rights. Neighboring rights has nothing to do with who lives next door to you. It is part of the copyright law and intellectual property. So using your device, your computer for these areas are considered, is considered in this category as offenses. All right, let's look
And
at.
these offenses are defined by the convention.
Yes, these are
Good.
defined, and these are enshrined in the
In the
convention.
convention. So when we hear our government speaking of the comparative relationship between our cybercrime bill and the Budapest Convention, it is clear for all and sundry to see that they have gone beyond the convention's requirements.
Yes, and
Okay,
we're
thank
going
you.
to
Thank you.
address that.
Yes,
These are the
wonderful.
critical areas, so
Yes.
we can superimpose
Mhm.
what they have in the urban cybercrime bill. We can superimpose or do parallels to see if they are within these parameters, if they fall under these offenses. I'm just providing a summary for those who may not
Yes.
that familiar, because Pastor Ferdinand, I am very careful not to be histrionic, not to be subjective, not to be emotional. Yes, I'm passionate, but I want us to be very clear of what we are responding to. It is more than a reaction. We should respond from an informed position. Let's look at the next slide, please. Thank you. Now, the convention, included in the convention, is a protocol to cover xenophobic and racist propaganda. As far as I know, I do not see this reflected in our cybercrime bill. I don't know if you have seen it or others. And my listeners, please, I am as new to this as you are. I'm learning every day. I'm consumed now with learning about the Cybercrime Convention and our Cybercrime Bill. But an additional protocol um, includes xenophobic and racist propaganda disseminated through computer systems and providing more protection for victims. It furthermore reinforces the legal framework through a set of guidelines for criminalizing xenophobia and racist propaganda in cyberspace. Now, I think that this would have been an important inclusion in our own cybercrime bill, because we do not, people say that Barbadians are very xenophobic, that we're quite xenophobic. and to protect each other, whether those who are coming to Barbados and living amongst us, or whether we go overseas and this occurs with us, we do know that we're protected under the Cybercrime Convention, the Budapest Convention. And I have not seen this reflected in our cybercrime bill. I don't know if you have, Pastor Ferdy.
I haven't seen it as yet.
And this is what I found in my research as recent as today. Furthermore, the convention enhances the ways and means for international cooperation in the investigation and prosecution of racist and xenophobic crimes online. This is not reflected. I think this should be in there as opposed to some of the other things that criminalize the Barbadian public. Let's look at the and I'm using the word from the Budapest Convention, the Cybercrime Convention. They speak of criminalizing and criminalization. Those are their terms. Let's look at the next slide, please. Thank you. Now, within the convention, there is a clause called conditions and safeguards. There are conditions and safeguards. The convention requires the provision for adequate protection of human rights and liberties. Now, I want to say, let's not blame the Council of Europe. Let's not blame the Budapest Convention fully, because they are guided by our requests also. They have conditions and safeguards, and the convention requires the provision for adequate protection of human rights and liberties, including, and I got this from Wikipedia, an updated source, including rights arising pursuant to obligation under the European Convention on Human Rights, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and other applicable international human rights instruments, and shall incorporate the principle of proportionality. I learned a lot about that today. And I'm asking the legal minds in the chat to guide me. I'm a student also. I'm not a law student. I'm learning like you. I'll be guided by the more informed on human rights and on the principle of proportionality. So there are conditions and safeguards. And I am wondering, where are those conditions and safeguards for us? Next slide. Any comments, Pastor Ferdy, or can I move on?
Oh no, you go right ahead. You go right ahead. I'm making some notes as you're proceeding.
Yes, please. My further research, and I just pull out in the interest of time, that one of the obligations, one of the areas that they're applied here, and that is the international, I'm reading from my hard copy, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and it is known as ICCPR. Now, what is that? It is a multilateral treaty. That means that it is signed on and agreed to by all the parties, sovereign states, territories, at international level, that commits nations to respect, and do follow me, the civil and political rights of individuals, including the right to life, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, electoral rights, and rights to due process and a fair trial. It was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. They give you the resolution and note the time and date on the 16th of December 1966. Does the year 1966 ring a bell for us?
Yes, it should.
It's our independence. And to remind those of us that in 1966, that was the first UN Nations General Assembly that Barbados attended as an independent state, 16 days after we became independent. Our national hero, the late Honorable Harold Barrow, the first Prime Minister of Barbados, stood up at that assembly and said, what? Friends of
Of
all,
all.
satellites of none. And it was at that assembly that this was adopted, this covenant, this international covenant on civil and political rights. This treaty was adopted. That resolution was adopted in 1966, December. Barbados signed on to it, and it was ratified 10 years afterwards, with Barbados ratifying it in January 1973. We signed on to this in 1973. And these basic human rights, these basic rights still remain. And this is part of the safeguards and conditions identified by the Budapest Convention for the cybercrime, This isn't anything that we have made up. It is there. Let us look at the next slide. Therefore, I'm asking also if these things have been taken into consideration as what we call guidelines in terms of the drafting of this cybercrime bill. Remember, I said I am not a legal eagle, but I think I'm applying the average thinking and thought to this. Let's look at the next slide, please. Also, I think I had a slide here about I didn't have that one. Yes, the one just before this last one, Dave. It is called on. No, there's another one on proportionality. Do we have that? I have it here, my printout. All right, may I read it, Pastor Ferdy? I read it.
Yes, okay.
I don't see that slide. No.
Okay.
Be patient with me on this one.
That's okay.
Another safeguard and condition in the Cybercrime Convention is that of the incorporation of the principle of proportionality. Here it is.
Okay, there it is.
You want to read it for me, Pastor? Can
certainly.
you?
It would be my pleasure.
Thank
Another
you.
safeguard and condition is that of the incorporation of the principle of proportionality. Proportionality is a general principle in law which covers several separate, although related, concepts. The concept of proportionality is used as a criterion of fairness and justice in statutory interpretation processes, especially in constitutional law, as a logical method intended to assist in discerning the correct balance between the restriction imposed by a corrective measure and the severity of the nature of the prohibited act. Within criminal law, the concept is used to convey the idea that the punishment of an offender should fit the crime. I think that's an important clause, Rose. The punishment of an offender should fit the crime.
And as I said, I haven't studied law, but my husband and I went through this, and we do I recognize that this is a shortcoming in the cybercrime bill, that draconian, punitive, harsh fine of was it 7 years?
7 years or $70,000 or both,
Or both.
Yes.
And does this, and Caswell knows a little bit more of the law, I see him.
Well, permit me to cross you long enough just to welcome Caswell. I see he is in the show. Caswell, we welcome you to the show tonight. Great to have you. Before we get back to Rose's presentation, just to give you the opportunity to greet the loyal opposition, and then we'll get back to Rose.
Yeah, my greeting is going to be very short. Good night, everybody. Back to Rose, please.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Caswell, I thought
that's a first.
I thought, Caswell, that you would have rescued me on this one here. But I'm wondering, we are criminalizing the individual in this cybercrime bill, and have we taken into consideration this safeguard and condition as identified in the Cybercrime Convention?
Yeah,
or have we prescribed to the experts from the Council of Europe what we wanted in terms of these conditions? I don't know, but this is a question that in my research, I thought that should be considered and should be raised. So let's look.
Let me think. That is what I was talking about a couple of shows back when I complained that you can have a gun and shoot somebody and get 2 years. That's what I was talking about. The principle of proportionality, that it doesn't make sense. The law is so draconian and so stupid that a guy can shoot at the police and police doing their duty, trying to enforce the law, shoot at the police, and he get 3 years in jail. But a person could open his mouth and just by saying the wrong thing and somebody feels bad, you tell me you could put him in jail for 7 years. And do not tell me that, as I've been told before by one of the other people who make noise, I'm not going to call their names, the magistrate is not going to give you 7 years for that, something like that. No, it's in the law. That's what the law says that he can give. So if he gives it, he's not breaching any rules. It is for the parliament to decide that it is not worth 7 years. And parliament is saying that it is. So let's say we have a magistrate who had a bad night. Wife's not speaking to him, ain't making the breakfast in the morning, that kind of stuff, and he get up and he got no cruel. That's somebody getting 7 years. You cannot expect. And Rose, I'm so grateful to you for your presentation. That's why I said back to you, because I wanted more people to hear what you were saying, because it's not coming from me, it's coming from your well-researched presentation. So they can't say it, they can't go in Parliament and say that I'm lying.
Thank you so very much, Caswell. You go ahead, Rose.
I appreciate that input,
Yes,
Caswell,
absolutely.
because I'm saying, should I touch this? Since that I'm not that confident, I am not so much aware of the law, should I touch this? But then I said, why not? Because if this is a safeguard identified and a condition identified in the Cybercrime Convention, should it be ignored in our own cybercrime bill? And what I know that I've prepared, if I were able to be on in the previous nights, I had prepared this a presentation on the politicizing of the cybercrime bill and the depoliticizing thereof. And one of the things that the lower house as well as the upper house, they are both full of lawyers, not only the AG, not only the Minister of Home Affairs, but there are not only the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister. I know the Speaker of the House, he has a confined and definitive position. Not only Edmund Hinkson, not only, but we have so many lawyers. And couldn't they, in the representing the interests of those who sent them there, speak to this? I'm a novice, and I see the flaw. They might have some, they might want to dismiss Caswell, but we recognize Caswell to be an intellectual on various matters. But I'm a novice, and if I sit and I could ask these questions, couldn't these persons in the lower house, get up and speak to these matters, particularly those who have gone to law school and who have the letters behind their names? This disturbs me. And my last slide on this, Dave, could you put it up for us? And these are the questions that I am throwing out to us out there, and saying that's why we should take action. This is a serious matter, and no one is speaking for us beyond the voice of the leader of the opposition, Mr. Rathorn, Honorable Rathorn, and those in the upper house that he has appointed to two. I am yet to hear other voices, and my questions are, where are the safeguards and conditions as included in the Cybercrime Convention, in the Cybercrime Bill before us now in Barbados? I do not see the safeguards and conditions. The second question, why are sections of this bill seeking to criminalize the Barbadian public rather than ensure the safeguards and conditions identified by the Cybercrime Convention? And I refer to one of the pillars that they have identified as safeguards and conditions, that of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which Barbados ratified in January 1973. I don't know if that's obsolete. Again, I'm not an expert, but we signed on to it, and I believe it remains. And under that covenant on civil and political rights, Nations commit themselves to respect the civil and political rights of individuals and repeating, including the right to life, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, electoral rights, and rights to due process and a fair trial. Out of this, we extrapolate for the interest of the cybercrime bill. We look at the freedom of speech and the rights to due process and a fair trial. And Caswell has been speaking particularly to due process, the rights to due process and a fair trial, given the draconian, punitive nature, voice, tenor, and proposed actions contained within this cybercrime bill. And as I was preparing, Pastor Ferdy and Caswell and the listeners, I said, thank God for Rathorn. I'm going to declare publicly, I am not a card-bearing person. I've voted for both sides of the fence, and I've even voted for an independent. And I said, thank God for Ralph Thorne. And you know what came to my mind? Something I would hear my grandmother saying. And I'm not preaching. I'm just saying what dropped into my mind at the same time. God moves in a mysterious way, his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps in the sea and rise upon the storm. Were it not for the decision that Mr. Thorne made, and by doing that, enabling the appointment of 2 senators in the upper house who would have formed this joint committee, select committee, before whom this type of bill is being presented and discussed and open to ourselves for written submission and oral submissions. There would have been no joint select committee, because the joint select committee, as in America, is made up of the both houses of Congress, from the opposition as well as the ruling, the government. Similarly, in the UK, whose law we still are practicing, they have their joint select committees too, made up of persons from the lower house and the House of Lords. And they come together to look at governance, to look to see how monies are spent, the taxpayers' monies are spent, to look at misappropriation of funds, to look to see if the law is being contravened, to look at things like these. Now, people out there, were it not for Mr. Ralph Thorne, God moves in a mysterious way. This bill would have gone on, and we would not have had the voice of dissension or disagreement towards this bill. And look at the composition of the Joint Select Committee, led by the chair, Mr. Edmund Hinkson, who lauded. So you know already there is that politicizing of this bill, because he got up in the House and lauded it. It was the best thing, and his only advice amongst, I won't comment on that. But what made the press was, young girls, be careful how you use your cell phone to take pictures of yourself. And it spoke to that in the earlier discussions. Is that the credence? Is that the level of discussion one wanted on something as serious as this cybercrime bill? Therefore, I take this opportunity to say we must thank Mr. Ralph Thorne for that move, which enables now, and this show and that march that we embarked on, that said, look, we are going to pull it right now and have the joint select committee form a joint select committee to look at it. I do hope that our submissions would be, and the submissions of the two persons, the two opposition, which is the two persons are Mr. Ralph Thorne and Senator
Senator Ryan.
Waters.
Yes.
And that they will be given the space, and that those who present will be given the space to depoliticize this cybercrime bill, which seeks to criminalize and which seeks to restrict us. And now that we have studied the conditions, because I was saying, the European Union couldn't be developing the cybercrime bill in their interest without criminalizing all these things, without safeguarding the rights of people. And I looked at it and I saw that there are indeed safeguards and conditions. That's why I am encouraging ourselves to act.
Well, Rose, one of the things that I heard, I believe it was Maxine, reference with regards to the Budapest Convention was a cautioning, if I could use the term, of restricting or criminalizing, if you want to put it that way, the use of the internet by the peoples, the citizens of countries. That should not be allowed. That should not be encouraged. I believe she made mention of that. But you mentioned Mr. Hinkson making his speech. And it does not surprise me. When I see pictures, Rose, like this. When I see pictures like this, it tells me the mentality of the people that we are dealing with, because it is an insult to Barbadian citizens who are not members of the Barbados Labour Party to consider them to be liars, thieves, whores, and bullers. That's what the image means. It is an insult to the citizenry of our country because we don't support your party and you want to vote them out, that you consider people who are opposed to your party not to be people, not to be citizens of the country, and to have a right of affiliation and a right of freedom of assembly and association, but you consider them to be liars, whores, thieves, and to have the Deputy Prime Minister standing in the midst of it legitimizes the expression. She should have extracted herself from that thing, but that's another subject for another time. And we want to really say thank you, Rose. This has been a tremendous. We're looking forward to you continuing it, as you mentioned in one of our upcoming shows. But this has been a tremendous presentation by you tonight, and I'm just sorry sometimes that we can't get these things printed and out to the public. And I don't know if you would be willing to share your information, if you because sometimes it's difficult to take notes at the speed at which the slides are moving on the screen, but I made a note.
I do have the PowerPoints and I could share them with you.
Yeah, well, you could do it in a PDF format and we can help you with that.
Yes,
I paid attention to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The right to life, if I want to get it right, the right to freedom of religion, which this bill is going to threaten. If there's a pastor, apostle, bishop, or reverend listening to this show who does not think they should get involved with this cybercrime bill and this march, you are blind and you are uninformed. You need to, because if you intimidate someone with your message, you could be criminalized as a minister. Freedom of speech, which Mr. Hinkson attempted to suggest in the House of Assembly, that freedom of speech was not the same thing as freedom of expression. I don't know how freedom of speech could be separated from freedom of expression when speech is a form of expression, but I'm not going to educate uneducated people. And then freedom of assembly and electoral rights and rights to due process and a fair trial. And again, I think you mentioned the aspect in one of your previous slides tonight, the whole proportionality matter. And when you look at some of the things, Caswell, I see Nigel is here. We want to get to his presentation as well. But when I look at the bill, and I see something as ridiculous as this: a person who intentionally or recklessly uses a computer system to publish, broadcast, or transmit computer data that intimidates a person. I can't believe that you would be criminalized for 7 years and fined $70,000 because what I am saying or what I impart intimidates you. That is the ridiculous nature of some of the components of this bill. But Rose, in the future, in some of the upcoming shows, we are going to continue to dissect this bill. And we're going to continue it until the committee comes to a conclusion. The bill, if it's not repealed, has to be amended significantly. So I want to say thanks to you.
Don't just thank her yet, because I don't want Rose to go just yet.
No, she's not going anywhere. You give me a minute. You give me a minute. Let me thank her, please. Let me follow proper protocols. She has finished her presentation. So I want to thank her for the presentation and for the information. But as with any presentation, when I make mine on Monday, they told me that I should be available to answer any questions that the committee would have for me on my presentation. So thank you, Rose. Appreciate it so very much. Just taking a couple of questions from you, Caswell, or a couple of comments, and then I want to flow over to Mr. Newton. Good night, Mr. Newton. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and we're looking forward to what you have to share with us in just a few moments. But welcome to the Marcia Weeks show, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ferdinand.
Thank you. God bless you. Yeah, go ahead, Caswell.
I enjoyed Rose's presentation, but there's one part that I do not agree with. And I will say that now. The part she says, thank God for Ralph Storm. No, it wasn't thank God for Ralph Storm. It's thank God for Marcia Weeks.
I did say.
Wait, she did include her, you know. She did include Marcia.
Marcia must take top billing.
Okay.
Because if Marcia Weeks did not have this show, and she did not have us speak on this matter, there will be no joint select committee. And that march, when they had their drones in the air hovering over your heads and had it think in Independence Square, and they saw the crowd, there were over 1,000 people on that march. That is when they decided that they are going to take come up with this monstrosity that they have now, calling a joint select committee. I just want to make a few little comments on that too. However, Marcia Weeks. Don't let me forget. Ralph will get his accolades when they are due, but he is in the House now, and he is participating in the committee as a member of that committee. He should be there. 1, 2. He should have taken the principal position that we have already done this in the House, so we can't be doing it again, because the only people that should be there are senators, because the Senate can have a committee of the Senate to deal with matters when they go, before they have after the second reading. So it is not unusual to have a committee, because the Senate goes into committee on every bill. The problem here is that the Prime Minister mandated a joint select committee. Go on, Ben, she didn't have the power to do so, and she did something outside of Parliament. But when she makes a decision, they have to break the rules or whatever to comply with what she's saying. This committee having passed in the House. The rules, I think, is 56 of the standing orders of the House. I can't remember. I will double check because I'm not too familiar with their standing orders. 56, 58, around there. Says that after this second reading, whether the bill has been negative or approved, you can't come back to this bill. So the House cannot come back to this bill. The only way the House can come back to this bill is if the Senate saw something wrong with it and send it back down. Made amendments and send it back down. That is when the House will come back to this bill. But other than that, no. What they did, they came up with some device on, but they will suspend the standing orders so that the House can members of the House can deal with this bill. Now, Kadir, now listen to this. You are now participating in a committee to approve a bill that you have already approved. That is what the presence of members of the House on that Joint Select Committee is doing. They are not trying to approve something that they have already approved. It should be pulled from Parliament and go back to the drawing board. It does not. This is so unintellectual. It is stupid. It is unparliamentary. It is challenging the decency, common sense, and intelligence of Barbadians to do what they are doing now. Right? I suppose now it's there. And if you don't go and say, well, we went before the Joint Select Committee, they're going to say, you see, the business didn't come out. So business find themselves in between a rock and a hard place.
Yes.
Stand up for what is right, or say, well, or go. Now, if you don't go, they're going to say, you see, business isn't really interested, business doesn't care. So it is like a lose-lose position. You know, people talk about win-win, but this is a lose-lose position for democracy in this country. Because, and they have been doing it all over the place. You know, right now we got a hodgepodge constitution, right? Because we do have a constitution, but it is the old English constitution that was handed down by the Queen, with a few things taken out and a few things put in, and that is our Republican constitution, you know. And then they're going to 2 years now down the road, and they still haven't gotten one. They're doing everything wrong.
But let me get back quickly to this subject here, though, Caswell, because what you're saying then is that in truth and in fact, this bill should be repealed and sent back to square one. That's what we're technically saying, right?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
That's what
they're doing now. Breaches everything that they know, and they know because they read the rules of Parliament just like me.
What I would love to know, though. What I would love to know, and I don't know if it's something you can put together for us, what I would love to know is the specific areas or clauses and so on that are breached, because it would be interesting to present that to them. And I hope you would make a presentation to them with regards to the illegality, so to speak, of this process. But listen, in the interest of time, I'm going to...
Freddie, yes, thanks. Let me finish off.
Just be quick with it, because I wanted... Nigel has been in for a while.
Orders, right? Happens before the bill is debated. When the house goes into when the house starts, you hear they get up in the mornings and they say prayers and that kind of thing, and then they say they move that standing order 616 or whatever else you want to suspend for the remainder of the day's sitting.
Yes.
Now that day's sitting has passed and the bill has been passed. So how are you going to suspend the standing orders for the remainder of the day's sitting when the day sitting has already passed? You see, and the standing orders say that if you are going to suspend the standing orders, you have to give notice prior. And there's a particular form of giving notice. They have not done so either. So you cannot, so nothing that they're doing is legal. But they want to get, and I'm sorry, Freddie, but I want Dave to play a little later. The little boy, I keep calling him a little boy, the almost senator.
Yeah. The purpose of the purpose.
That would give the purpose of the bill. He said it out loud in front of several ministers I think the Prime Minister was there as well, and they
And
have
nobody
not
distanced.
they have not distanced themselves from
Yes,
what he is
yeah.
saying. So it
Yes,
must be
yes.
must be the intention. He don't
Yes,
speak anything
yes.
unless the time to say anyhow.